Welcome back to Russ Total Garage. It is turbo time, finally. All right, so if you have been following along, here's a list. Gotten some stuff off of it. Here's where we are. Mount the turbo, oil feed, oil drain, and whatever else pops up while doing that work. And here we are, ready for turbos. And if you saw my little short I threw up a few days ago, I have two to choose from. One is the eBay GT45. One is a VS Racing 7875. And this is the .96 AR version. What am I going to use? Well, let's talk about it. All right, so let's go through a little bit of a history here. I started this build, I said, about 2 years ago. I am a novice to turbos. Don't know a whole lot about a turbo. Did as much research as I could. That said, when I bought the turbo headers that are on the car from a guy, he said, hey, I got a brand new GT45. You want it? $75. I said, oh, okay. I mean, $75 for a brand new turbo. How do you turn that down? Well, this turbo works, and they do work, but so much, I'll say, better and still low buck turbos have come out, so many better ones like this, that this is no longer the go-to turbo anymore. It works, and I am going to put it on something. I have another, well, I've got many projects, but I have another one that I think this will go on, but it is not going to go on the Buick. We're going with the VS Racing 7875. All right, so now that that's been decided, and trust me, that was no easy decision, because in my mind, I'd like to try that GT45 to see just how bad it is, because I have no reference. But this is not the car I want to do it on. I got something else in the future that you'll see. But again, because of my, let's say, lack of knowledge of turbos, when I bought this, I didn't pay attention. And instead of having a T4 flange, it's got a 3-inch V-band mount instead of a T4, which is good and bad. It's bad because it doesn't just bolt up to my header. And I had to buy this adapter. But it's good where if you were making your own turbo hot side and not using a header like that, the V-band gives you the ability to mount it and turn it in whatever direction you want. Whereas if this was cast with the T4 flange, wherever your flange is, that's where it's going to be. So this is actually a good thing, even though it's probably not needed in this application. So this is the adapter I bought, and it wasn't a lot of money, $30 or $40 off of Amazon. T4 to 3-inch V-band, and that will bolt to my header and mount to the turbo, and that'll be that. The turbo itself comes with a drain fitting, which is here, that goes to AN10, which is good because I still have some swap meet AN10 hose and fittings, so that'll work out fine. And it comes with a 3-inch V-band, and it comes with a 3-inch V-band that's stepped down. The flange is smaller. I don't know what that's for. Again, I'm new to turbos. This fits perfectly here, but I don't know if this was, maybe they give you this to weld to a piece of 3-inch pipe and that's your mount. If so, that's cool, but I just can't use it in this application. So I did buy some more 3-inch V-bands, which haven't gotten here yet, but at least I have the one. I don't need this one right now, but I have one 3-inch V-band clamp, I should say, I can use, and at least get this thing mounted. So first thing I'm going to do is put the oil feed fitting on it and the oil drain fitting on it and see what that looks like. Again, I'm a newbie, first time ever doing this, so we'll see how it goes. All right, as far as oil feed goes, this is actually threaded. And I was going to say, this turbo did not come with an oil feed adapter, but it's actually threaded for 1/8 inch pipe, which is perfect because look what I got. I bought these because I planned on using 1/8 inch pipe fittings. Let's just see that. Yep. And a hard line to feed the oil to this. Why am I doing that? Well, let me get the other line and I'll explain. When I first started buying parts for this turbo swap, and again, I'm new, so I'm learning on the fly and doing the best I can. I bought one of these eBay lines to feed oil to the turbo. It's, you know, an AN4 and it's Teflon lined, and what could go wrong, right? Well, watching many YouTube videos, which is a great inspiration for all this kind of stuff, I found 2 videos where guys lost their turbos because of problems with this line. And at least one of them was a GT45. One of them might have been something else. I don't know. Doesn't matter. It's no consolation that it was a cheaper turbo. Thing is, they hardly ran the thing and they ruined their turbo because of lack of oil. And it seems like because this is Teflon lined inside, if it gets hot, it can collapse. And then you got no oil, and then your turbo's junk. I was not willing to risk that, so I bought this. It's going in the garbage, or I'll save it for something else in a non-heat application, I should say. But it's not going to be used to feed oil to my turbo. I'm going to make a hard line out of nickel copper. At least that's the plan, and we'll see what it looks like. But now that I see that this oil feed is tapped for 1/8 pipe, I'm just going to put my fitting right in there directly. All right, so I put some Teflon tape on my fitting there. Now the opening size in that is 1/8 of an inch. I got to verify that that is okay as far as the oil feed. I've seen a million people, I'll say, saying journal bearings, which this is, does not need a restrictor in the oil feed and should not have one. Then I saw people saying that they talked to VS Racing directly and they said to put a 60 thousandths restrictor in. Now this is a 1/8 of an inch opening in this fitting, which is 125, so 125 thousandths. So I'm going to put the fitting in here, but I'm going to try to email them and just confirm that that's okay to have that 125, or should I be doing something different. All right, so I'm going to put my drain fitting on next. It's angled fitting, so we'll angle it toward the hot side. What's weird is that the bag came with a gasket for the oil feed side, but I did not get an oil feed fitting, and also no bolts came with this. So I just lucked out. I happened to look in my hardware bins, and I have some socket head cap screws of the right pitch. I don't even know if they're metric or standard, but they fit, so they're going in. So I'm gonna clean this surface off here. With some brake clean. And I put some of my old standby Permatex #2 that I use on all paper gaskets. May not be needed, but I don't like leaks. And this stuff does work nice. Just kind of smear that on there. Set my gasket. Fitting. I should probably get some lock washers. Let me get some lock washers. I got some flats and locks, and I checked these screws, and these are metric. I don't know why they didn't come with the turbo. You would think they would, especially if it's a non-standard, in my mind, hardware like metric. Not something everybody's going to have laying around. But I am not normal, I understand. And it looks like it's going to be a, so 6mm hex key. That means it's an M5 screw. I don't know the pitch. All right, so with that fitting on there, looks like there's plenty of room for it to get a AN fitting on there, no problem. I can get a wrench on it, but gotta bolt this on the car and see where everything needs to be clocked. All right, before I mount the turbo, I'm gonna put my adapter on. T4 gasket. Doesn't look like this thing is angled or matters which way it goes. Some 3/8 bolts. All right, time to put this on. Now I'm wondering if I should have put the V-band on the turbo first. If I can do this by myself. Let's see. That is sliding everywhere. Okay, I got it. It was not easy. The V-band bolt barely is long enough to catch the threads when it's not compressed. So it wasn't easy. So now, the only thing with this is now trying to make sure it's straight. And I will have to still clock it, but I think that is pretty straight. I wonder if I was supposed to clock it or angle the drain the other way, which doesn't make a lot of sense. I may have to use a 45 fitting to get the drain over this direction. So to show you what I'm looking at, there's the drain fitting, and it's angling toward the valve cover. It'd actually be better if it angled away. So I think a 45 fitting will work. You just grab one and see. All right, and that's what a 45 would look like. Again, I gotta clock the cartridge, so I should get that done first before I make any decisions. Okay, already into the first change of plans. First off, as far as clocking the turbo, I thought I was gonna have to shoot out through the inner fender and maybe go out near the tire and then back into here. But I'm thinking that now, looking at this, if I get that like that, I think I can elbow over, and as long as this elbow is tight enough, come inside and come over to that and make that work. The other issue was the drain. This angled drain mount just wasn't working out. I mean, if I tried to angle it toward the cold side, it really didn't fit well. You'd have to probably lose some bolts off of here to make it work. And if you angled it toward the hot side, it was putting the fittings right up against the hot side. I mean, just very close. So I have this one, which is a straight, and I think I'm going to try this. The only difference between these is the other one had a little, I think a little bigger opening there. It's still AN10, but this one had kind of a bigger, like a step hole to it. I think that's the only difference. I don't think that diameter hole there is a whole lot different. It is. I think I'm going to drill this out to match, but I think the straight fitting will work better to get my drain lined up, because I have to go down to the side of the oil pan, which I can't see from here, but I'll get it on the video and show you where I'm going with it. But I'm gonna drill this out if I can and go with this fitting. All right, so after screwing around with this, here's what I come up with. I put a straight AN fitting on this AN10 line. I'll use the straight connector, drain connector, which I did drill out to the larger size that matched the VS Racing fitting, and see if this works. I'm going to mount this all to the turbo, feed the extra down there, get this clocked. Hopefully it all looks good. And then once that's done, get underneath and figure out how long this needs to be and what kind of fitting I need to go down into the oil pan. So it's not been difficult. It's just, you know, nothing ever just kind of bolts up. It is what it is. All right. Newbie alert. So I took the turbo back off because I put it on, obviously, but because I'm using this adapter to go to the turbo, this was a flush V-band flange. Like this. Smooth. And this one's also smooth. And I was thinking about this, and I'm like, V-bands are supposed to lock together. Like the flange here that goes to this turbo, you see it has a raised lip on it. So it locks in, because I don't think that will seal without that. It may, but I just don't know. So I took the turbo back off to try to see what my options were, and what it ended up doing was welding a piece of tubing inside this to get a little bit of a flange. So now these lock together, and the hope is that it'll seal. I mean, I've got it, I think, as good as I can get it. There's a little bit of movement here. It's not 100%, but this sticks up into the turbo body. So and I welded it from the inside, so there's no way it's going to leak that way. So now the sealing point is the top of this ridge, and then the clamp. So I'm hoping that's going to work. If it doesn't, I guess I'll have to figure out something else. Okay, now that idiocy is taken care of, turbo is mounted again. Still have to do the bottom of the drain, but I have now blown all the time I had for the day. So that is all I got done today. I'm going to have to come back again out tomorrow, and even tomorrow, don't have a whole lot of time. And let's see here. So what do we do? We can say mount turbo. That's about it. Halfway, not even halfway, done. Well, halfway done with the drain, not halfway done with the feed. Did not get done what I wanted to do today, but that's what happens sometimes. All right, so tomorrow's another day. Come out, continue on this, and hopefully don't make any more stupid mistakes. But hey, I'm learning, right? What are you going to do when you haven't done it before? You got to learn somehow. So hopefully that doesn't leak now, and that stub I put in there works. And I also have an email out to VS Racing to make sure that that 1/8 pipe fitting that I'm using is okay for the oil feed, because it's drilled out to 1/8 of an inch. I just want to make sure that's enough oil for this, or do I have to use something else? Hopefully they reply to me. So, guess that's it for now, but we'll continue tomorrow. All right, it is the next day, and in between other things, I'm going to try to get this drain finished. So right up here is my fitting that I have to remove for the drain. This is an eBay pan knockoff of a 302-3. So it's basically like a 302-2, but with drains on both sides for turbos. So you want to run twin turbos, you got drain spots. All right, so the fitting I'm going to first put in is a 1/2 inch pipe thread to 10 AN. So that's going to go in there. Let me get a ratchet. Get that snugged up. All right, that's on there. And I got a 45 10 AN here. I think that'll be the best fitting to use. And then I can just mark this hose, this line, and get it cut. And I think we'll be in good shape. All right, I got the line trimmed. I didn't film it because I didn't want the sparks to hit the camera. That looks pretty good. There is a look at the drain. I think I could have shortened it up a little more, but it's good. Now that's sitting about, what, 1/2 inch off of the exhaust manifold there. And that's a Teflon line in there. I don't think it can collapse the way it is mounted like that. I'm not using the eBay oil feed line because I've seen people lose their turbos, like I said, because I think they got hot and they actually like fell over because the line's like hanging off the engine, and it gets hot and it bends and collapses. But I don't think that would collapse going straight down like that. But you know what? Let's do a test. All right, back at the messy table. I can't seem to keep anything clean. I don't understand why. But anyway, let's do a test. Here's a little length of the AN10 leftover from that drain. Let's get it hot. I'm real curious. Will this collapse and cause a restriction? Now, I don't think it's going to get as hot as this, but hey. What it did was it distorted. See that? So I can easily see, woo, that's hot. how if you had that eBay oil feed line and it got hot and it's hanging so there's weight on it, that it could fold over and collapse and you lose oil. Now, that's pretty dang ugly. I mean, but it's not stopping the flow. And the thing is, if my drain had a problem like that, it wouldn't destroy my turbo. I would just have smoke because the oil wouldn't be able to drain back to the pan. But this is a big enough line where I don't think that's going to be a problem. What I'm going to have to do, obviously this is way too hot to touch. I'm going to have to see what that looks like when it's running. In fact, let me put a temp gun on this. I probably should have done this right away. Still too hot to touch. That is about 180 degrees, 177, 178. Depending on where you hit it there. We're over 180, I can't see now. Oh yeah. 150. 160. Depends where you hit it, but I had like 178 degrees on it. That's hot. But now that I've seen it do that, now I want to know, how hot does it have to get for that to actually be a problem? I'm going to cut some of this off. Well, I will if I plug this in. All right, let's cut some of this off. Wear safety goggles. There you can see a better look at how that folded in from the heat. So what I'll do is, I'm going to heat up the opposite side. And as soon as I start seeing the Teflon deform, I'm going to throw the temp gun on it. Now, one thing I can say is, as far as I can see, the Teflon didn't crack and it's not going to leak. It just restricted. So first we're going to heat it. Oh yeah, safety goggles. That's really hot. That's really freaking hot, and it really didn't start deforming yet. Dude, that's over 500 degrees. Are you kidding me? 380, 390. And now it's cooling down some. That's a lot of heat. The reason I'm doing this test is when I have the engine running at full temp, I'd like to shoot this gun right at the drain line and get an idea of what's going on here, because if it's below deforming temp, then at least I know nothing's happening. What that did when it got hot, it kind of moved a little, but it didn't deform. Let's try it again. Let's make it deform. Woo! Are you kidding me? That did not deform. How can that be? I may have to cut this back because that's, come on, that's like 800 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm getting you in the camera here. I'm not looking at the camera. I don't know what it's reading, but I'm going to see. All right. What I'll do again is a test. I'll cut it back to clean Teflon. We'll do it again. All right, I had to cut quite a bit back to get to clean Teflon. Sorry if this is boring to some people, but this is really, to me, this is interesting because, you know, you run your drain line or something, or run this stuff somewhere near heat, and you're like, I wonder if that's going to bother it or not. Well, this will let you know, right? So I'm going to heat this until it starts deforming. Try to get an idea here. Nothing yet. Nothing yet. 500 degrees. 6. Are you kidding me? That was over 600 degrees there. Okay, now it's starting to deform as it cools down. But you're talking 600 degrees. And I have a 1/2 inch air gap to this thing. What this all means is that if this stuff is not good to put near that turbo, I'm going to have to figure out something else for the drain. Maybe I should have put a 45 fitting on the line. I don't know. I don't think I have enough AN10 left to do it again. I'll have to buy some if that's the case. But what I'll do is I'll run the engine, put the gun on the line, and see how hot it is. All right, I jumped ahead, and I made a hard line for my oil feed, and it's ugly. I changed my mind, bent it a few times, and now it's got, I guess you would call, wrinkles. Not pretty. I think I'm going to paint that black or do something else to hide it, because it's not my best work. But anyway, it'll work. I'm going to disconnect it from the turbo and crank the engine over, make sure I got oil coming out of it, and then I'm going to hook it up. All right, so I pulled the 2 fuses for my fuel pumps. So theoretically, I should be able to crank this over and get some oil pressure out of that line. At least that's the plan. The way things have been going, I'm not quite sure what to think, but we'll see what happens. And yet, nothing yet. The battery doesn't sound too strong. Anything yet? Are you kidding? Really? Nothing. Nothing, unless I'm missing it. I can't see it from the car. That is strange. What's strange is it seems like it won't pump oil because of this big oil leak. I have 0 oil pressure in the car. And, you know, my gauge is hooked up where this is, so it's going to read nothing. But it should pump oil. I don't understand. I'm going to have to put the charger on the battery and see what happens. Because I do not want to start it with no oil going to the turbo. Well, I got oil out of the feed. Doesn't look too good. If I were to look at that, I'd think I had a blown head gasket or something. That looks like milkshake. This project may be over before it even got started. Well, there's the oil. Not looking good. Well, I don't know. This may be the end of this build for a while. This was so close to being finished. This is depressing. I've been working on this pig off and on for 2 years, and this is the first time I've ever had this happen. Something like this, where it's like home stretch and then just something completely whacked out happens. I don't know what I did wrong. I mean, I've done plenty of head gaskets before in my life. First time with MLS. First time on an LS, but I mean, I'm pretty sure I put them in the right way. I mean, they're marked and they're not China gaskets. They were good gaskets. And yeah, I reused the head bolts, but everybody, you know, I'll say everybody, many people do that. I can't see how that would be the reason. And no burning coolant, and my coolant level looks up. I don't understand. Maybe only when it gets up a temp. I've really only ran this engine up to temp when I was testing the electric fan. That's about it. So I don't know. I think I'm going to put fresh oil in it, pressurize the coolant system, see if I can see anything obvious, and run it. Maybe run it up to temp. I'm going to take the turbo back off because I'm not going to risk hurting the turbo. But I'll put the muffler back on and run it. I just don't understand what's going on here, unless maybe something's cracked that I don't know about. I mean, we got oil, got coolant going into the oil, at least that's what it looks like, but not into the combustion chambers because it's definitely not burning coolant. There's no smoke. Oil pressure is good. Well, tomorrow I'll throw some fresh oil in it and check out some things. And I don't know. This may be the last time you see this car for a while. Because if this thing is popped, I'm going to have to get motivated again to work on it. I may end up pushing it in the corner and moving on to a different build and regrouping. If it is popped, maybe I should just throw a stock 5.3 in there and just forget putting camming it, forget putting the head gaskets, forget checking ring gap, just slap a stock 5.3 in there, put the turbo on it, and see what happens. I don't know. All right, well, I give it some thought. We'll let you know on the next one how things go. Thanks for watching. Sorry, that's gotta be depressing. Sorry for that. And but thanks for watching, and thanks for new subscribers. I really appreciate that. That's cool. I still got lots of cars to build. I may just have to recoup on this one and come back. We'll see. All right. Take it easy. Later. Bye.